Hi guys, section 3.3, solving inequalities using multiplication and division. So in section 3.2, we did using addition and subtraction, so now we're going to move to multiplication and division. So using the multiplication property, all that means is that you are moving some constant to the other side using multiplication, same way as what we did for equations. So first thing up, this question wants us to solve for the solutions of x over 3 is less than -1, and then we want to graph it, okay? So I'm just going to rewrite what we have here. We have x over 3 is less than -1. So fraction, I know that means division, which means that I'm using multiplication to move this 3 to the other side. They cancel. I'm using multiplication over here. So I end up with x is less than -1 times 3 is -3. I don't like the way I wrote that. So now, if I go to graph this, I know that my number is -3, so that's where I'm starting, and I know that it's a less than symbol, which means I'm starting with an open circle, and I'm going to change this so we can see it. An open circle at -3, and then x is less than -3 to the left, okay? If you have your inequalities written like this with your variable on the left-hand side, whichever way that your inequality symbol is pointing is the way that you're drawing this line. So it's pointing to the left, you draw your line to the left, okay? So I want you to try this one on your own and graph it, okay? Don't let this fraction freak you out. It will all work out in the end. So next up, we are going to be using the division property of equality. So all that means is we are taking our inequality, 3m is greater than or equal to 6. We know we need to get this 3 away from the m. If they're just written next to each other, we know that it's multiplication. So we use our inverse property of division. So we get that m is greater than or equal to 6 divided by 3 gives me 2. So greater than or equal to symbol means a closed circle, and it's at 2. So I close my circle at 2. And greater than is to the right. Okay? So I want you guys to try this one on your own as well. 4t is less than -12, and you will graph your solution as well. So here's where things get a little bit different than when we are working with equations. So if we are multiplying or dividing, this is very important, guys. You need to write this down. If we are multiplying or dividing by a negative number, we must flip the inequality symbol, okay? So regardless if it's just multiplication or if it's just division, whenever you are multiplying or dividing by a negative number, you must flip the inequality symbol. It is so important, okay? So for number 3, we have -3/4 w is greater than or equal to 3. So in order to get this fraction to the other side, we must multiply by the reciprocal. So we have -4 over 3. They all cancel, and over here I do the same thing, -4 over 3. So I have that w is less than or equal to, notice I flipped this sign, 3 over 1 times -4 over 3. So if I evaluate this, I get w is less than -4 times 3 is 12 over 1 times 3, which is 3. So I get that w is less than or equal to -4. Okay? The solving part should not be an issue because we've been doing this for the past couple months of school. But the important thing that you have to remember is that you have to flip the inequality sign if you're multiplying or dividing by a negative number. So similarly on the right over here, I'm going to change my color, we have a -n over 3 is less than -1. Now I see division, which means that I must multiply to move it to the other side. They cancel. So I'm left with n is greater than, because I needed to flip my sign from a less than to a greater than because I'm multiplying by -3. is, so n is greater than -1 times -3 is a +3. Okay? So whenever you do that multiplication or division by a negative number, you must flip your signs. Okay? It is very, very important. We're going to do a couple other ones, and then we are good to go. So 2 more, actually. Okay, so we got -4w is less than or equal to 20. So in order to get my w alone, I see multiplication because they're just written next to each other. And we want to undo that using our inverse operation of division. So we cancel. And I get that w is greater than or equal to, notice I flipped my sign because I'm dividing by a negative number. 20 divided by -4 gives me -5. I'm going to rewrite this one up here. So number 6, I have -5h is less than 65. I know I need to divide by -5 to move it to the other side. Since that 5 is negative, I flip my sign to be a greater than sign. Now 65 divided by -5 gives me a -13. And I'm good. Okay, so really the only difference about this section than when we work with equations is that if that coefficient in front of your variable is negative and you must divide or multiply to get it to the other side, you have to flip your sign. Awesome, guys. Have a great night and make sure you write down